I step out of my car, the polished marble of the wedding hall gleaming under the afternoon sun. My heart hammers in my chest, a mix of pride and nervous anticipation twisting in my stomach. This was supposed to be a moment of joy, a chance to bless the couple I've loved like family, but from the instant I set foot inside, I feel it. That sharp, unmistakable sting of exclusion. As I catch sight of the bride and groom, all poised smiles and excitement, I notice the subtle glances aimed my way, whispers curling in the air, pointed looks slicing through the crowd like knives. The warmth I expected, the recognition I deserved, is replaced by icy indifference. Before I can even step forward, security intercepts me with practiced precision. "I'm sorry, ma'am, protocol," one of them says, his tone polite but firm, a polite wall between me and my purpose. My request to simply bless the couple falls on deaf ears. I speak up, my voice steady but my heart quaking, and they refuse, flatly, publicly, with smirks spreading across familiar faces. Laughter bubbles from the corners of the room, sharp and cutting. I feel the eyes of relatives on me, judging, whispering, noting every movement, every faltering heartbeat. I hear it. Snide remarks about my irrelevance murmured just behind my back. The officiant passes by without a glance, handing the ceremonial items to distant relatives as if I were air itself. My hands clutch the gift I brought, trembling, a symbol of my love turned into a token of my humiliation. Memories flood back, every prior attempt to be respected, every quiet effort ignored, now magnified in a single cruel moment of public shame. A sudden push from a cousin knocks me sideways. I stumble, the crowd barely noticing, my presence erased in a heartbeat. I retreat to the lobby, chest tight, pulse racing, forcing a calm mask over the boiling anger inside. My reflection in a mirror catches me, hurt etched deep in my eyes, but beneath it, something else glimmers, smoldering resolve. The first spark of something much larger than humiliation begins to take hold. The groom's family glances my way, dismissive, their superiority dripping from every gesture. I feel minimized, reduced to a shadow, my significance denied in front of everyone. The pulse in my temples throbs as my mind slows, cinematic, every insult and slight crystallizing into a single truth. "They think I can be ignored," I whisper to myself, voice low, trembling with controlled fury. "They think I can be erased. They are wrong." And in that reflection, in that heartbeat of fury and clarity, I know this is just the beginning. Neg. The moment I retreat into the quiet of the lobby, my mind snaps back, far beyond the glittering wedding hall, far beyond the present humiliation, into the long, painful history that led me here. I see the first day I met the groom's family years ago. I remember how polite I was, how carefully I tried to fit into their world. And yet, even then, I felt it, the subtle way they sidelined me. Smiles that never reached their eyes, invitations that somehow never included my opinion, moments where I stood just inches from the circle but never inside it. Other faces slip into view, supposed friends who had laughed with me, shared secrets with me, then betrayed me in soft, invisible ways during earlier family gatherings. They whispered about me, they used me when they needed help, then vanished when I needed support. Their loyalty had always been an illusion, something I realized far too late. Auntie's voice echoes in my memory, low, steady, almost prophetic. "They're not what they pretend to be," she had warned me, her eyes scanning their behavior long before I understood. "They manipulate through smiles. Watch closely." I should have listened earlier. Flashes of past generosity passed through my mind, times I had stepped up to plan events, organize gifts, handle crises, only to have my efforts ignored or credited to someone else. Each overlooked contribution carved a new scar, one I hid behind a practiced smile. Then I feel the sting of that old humiliation, the one moment years ago when they tried to embarrass me in front of a room full of people. I can still feel the burn on my cheeks, the tightness in my throat. But I hadn't broken. I had swallowed my pride, lifted my chin, and walked away with dignity they never deserved to witness. All my life, I've been the peacemaker, the one who smooths over conflicts, who keeps the family together, who sacrifices quietly. Yet to them, I have always been expendable, replaceable, someone whose worth was measured only by what I could do, not who I was. Inside a war brewed, my love for family collided with a bitter understanding of how deeply the dismissal ran. Systemic, practiced, intentional. It wasn't just today, it had always been this way. My mind drifts even further back to childhood. My first real lesson in exclusion, a group of kids who pretended not to hear me, who moved just out of reach every time I tried to join. That tiny wound had grown with me, resurfacing now like an old bruise pressed too hard. I remember every time I was denied an opportunity, every time I heard, "This isn't your place," in moments where I'd earned every right to be involved. Those words had shaped me, hardened me, prepared me. And in contrast to all their arrogance stands Aunty, quiet, observant, steady. She has never needed attention to command respect. Her strength has always been subtle. Unlike their loud, hollow pride, I find grounding in her presence, even in memory. Then comes the painful twist of betrayal, when a family friend I trusted deeply had aligned with the groom's family in secret schemes. Their messages, their half smiles, their sudden coldness, it all made sense later. That betrayal had taught me something sharp, something permanent. So every moment of silent endurance through the years gathers now like an army at my back. None of it was wasted. Every insult had become fuel. Every dismissal had become strategy. Every scar had become clarity. What I want now is more than revenge. It's acknowledgement, validation, a public correction of every wrong they've tried to bury. I want them to see me, not as an afterthought, but as a force they can no longer ignore. In the back of my mind, a shadow of future alliance forms, the memory of someone powerful who had once reminded me of my own worth, someone who, when the time was right, would stand beside me without hesitation, a figure whose presence alone could shift the balance. And so my preparation begins in silence. I start cataloging every pattern I've witnessed over the years, every weakness they've revealed, every arrogant assumption they've made. Because now I see the shape of my path, and every memory, every wound becomes part of the weapon I'm about to forge. I hover just outside the main hall, my breath steadying as I study every doorway, every corridor, every possible path back into the space that was denied to me. I map out their setup in my mind, where security stands, where the coordinators move, where their blind spots lie. I am no longer here as a guest. I am here as a strategist. My eyes sweep over the groom's friends and family clustered near the entrance. Their body language gives them away. Who craves attention, who folds under pressure, who parrots whatever the louder ones say. Their insecurities are stitched into their posture, every weakness on display for anyone who knows how to read it. Then I hear it. Quiet, sharp, cruel. She didn't even make it inside. Another voice chuckles. Figures, she was never important. The words strike like needles, and anger coils in my chest, tightening with every dismissive laugh. I step closer to a pair of relatives offering a smile laced with ice. Funny, I say softly, how loud some people become when they think no one's listening. They blink, startled, but before they can respond, I move on. Small jabs, nothing overt, just enough to test how rattled they can get when confronted. As I circle the periphery, I catch sight of the couple. For just a second, their smiles falter. The groom's eyes flick toward me, then away, as if he senses something unraveling. Cracks in his confidence appear like hairline fractures in glass. I slip my phone from my purse and send a discreet message. A single line, a call for support that will shift the entire balance. Within minutes, the groom's godfather responds. His agreement is calm, controlled, and absolute. The wheels begin to turn. In my mind, the moments blend into a montage. Quiet nights bent over my notes, hushed late-night calls, names circled, strategies refined. Every insult they've served me is added to a growing list that shapes the blueprint of my revenge. Their arrogance swells as the evening progresses. I overhear them discussing the next events, engagements, dinners, parties, all with one common theme: I am not invited. Their certainty in my helplessness fuels a deeper fire inside me. Still, I keep my face composed, every emotion hidden beneath a cool, deliberate calm. I measure every move, every expression, knowing that the impact of what I'm planning depends on restraint. So I begin small. A redirected message here, a miscommunicated schedule there, tiny adjustments that throw off their rhythm just enough to unsettle them. I watch them falter, momentary confusion, irritated glances, and I say nothing. Meanwhile, I document everything: their pointed snubs, their sneers, their whispered comments, screenshots, notes, observations, evidence to be used when the stage is set. Not out of pettiness, but precision. Pride battles with pain inside me. Justice swirls with anticipation. I can feel a dangerous satisfaction rising at the thought of finally exposing them. My internal voice sharpens. This isn't revenge for one moment, it's for all of it. Each family member's weakness reveals itself with startling clarity: the overconfident uncle who folds under authority, the cousin desperate for validation, the aunt who cracks when confronted publicly. I catalog them quietly, storing each in the arsenal I'm assembling. For a moment, the hall slows around me. The chandeliers shimmer, the gold decor gleams, but beneath the opulence I see fragility, an ecosystem built on pride, on performance, on a facade that cannot withstand real pressure. Their world is a glass palace, and I know exactly where to tap. A flicker of doubt touches me, soft, quick, almost gentle. Should I really go this far? But then I remember the laughter, the whispers, the humiliation. The doubt burns away instantly, replaced by a steady, unshakable resolve. Every slight will be accounted for. And the moment of confrontation is no longer distant. It's inching closer, heartbeat by heartbeat, breath by breath. The phone vibrated in my hand just as I stepped away from the commotion. I answered with a trembling breath, only to hear the one voice that could change everything. The groom's godfather, calm, firm, and unmistakably authoritative. "I heard what they did to you," he said. "I'm on my way. You will stand beside that couple, and no one will dare object." For a moment, my knees weakened. My humiliation, my silence, my forced exit, all of it snapped into sharp focus. Power, once stripped from me, was suddenly returning like a slow, rising tide. My heartbeat thundered with the realization they were no longer in control. I coordinated with him quietly, every detail planned with surgical precision: where he would enter, how I would follow 3 steps behind, the angle from which the guests would first see us. Not loud, not chaotic, a silent, devastating re-entry that would speak louder than any argument. The sting of earlier insults replayed in my mind, the dismissive looks, the smirks, the way they acted as if I were disposable. That memory didn't crush me now, it sharpened me. I felt the thin, sweet edge of justice forming in my chest. Old allies, women who had watched that family's arrogance grow over the years, sent whispered messages of warning and encouragement. "Be careful. They think they own the ceremony. Don't let them silence you again." Each message fed my resolve. I closed my eyes and pictured the moment, the doors opening, heads turning, chatter stopping mid-sentence. Stunned faces, whispered confusion, then dawning recognition. Awe, unavoidable and undeniable. Fear ebbed away, replaced by a hot current of adrenaline. Shame dissolved, leaving behind something steadier, stronger: righteous confidence. I walked the corridor leading to the ceremonial hall, studying every element: the stage, the seating, the unspoken hierarchy. I chose my angle of return carefully. Symbolism mattered today. Inside my mind, a single truth echoed. They underestimated my reach, my connections, my patience. Every word felt like a strike of thunder. I rehearsed my responses with calm authority, head high, shoulders steady, eyes unblinking, not defensive, not emotional, simply unshakable. Then the moment arrived. The doors swung open. A beam of golden sunlight spilled across the entrance as the groom's godfather stepped in, tall and commanding. His presence alone shifted the air, an unmistakable signal that the balance had changed. A ripple moved through the groom's family, confusion first, then unease. They sensed it before they understood it. Their grip on the narrative was slipping. I walked in behind him, each step deliberate, each breath steady. Moral vindication surged through me, warm and powerful. I had crafted this moment with precision, and now it unfolded exactly as intended. Their once impenetrable arrogance cracked. They were suddenly vulnerable, exposed under the collective gaze of the guests. I felt no rush of cruelty, only clarity. This was justice, finally arriving, wrapped in sunlight and silence. I steadied myself, preparing for the confrontation that was now inevitable. With the godfather beside me, my place in the ceremony was no longer a request. It was a declaration. The moment we stepped through the entrance, the hall cracked open with whispers. The godfather's presence towered like a declaration, and every head turned, slow, stunned, disbelieving. I felt the air tighten, conversations halting in mid-sentence, as if someone had pressed pause on reality. Slow-motion eyes widened, glasses froze midway to lips. A bridesmaid's jaw dropped. The groom's mother clutched her shawl a little too hard. The shift in power wasn't subtle, it was seismic. I walked toward the couple with the godfather beside me, each step echoing with reclaimed authority. When I reached them, I extended my blessings with controlled elegance, every movement deliberate and steady, the kind of moment cameras are built for. The bride blinked in awe. The groom's expression softened into something like relief. A few family members tried subtle protests, soft murmurs, forced coughs, tight smiles meant to reassert control. I turned to them calmly. After everything I've supported, after every moment I stood by this family, you still believed you could erase me. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried. Sharp, clean, undeniable. The godfather cleared his throat, stepping forward with unmistakable authority. She has every right to be here, he said. Her presence is not optional. It is respected and earned. A hush swept through the hall. Aye. Then came the emotional reveal, gently delivered truths that sliced deeper than any insult. I spoke of the small acts, the quiet kindnesses, the unacknowledged support I had offered over the years. Not accusations, facts. Memories shared publicly, each one peeling back their carefully crafted facade. The groom's family faltered. Panic flickered in their eyes. Relatives exchanged stiff, embarrassed glances. One uncle tugged at his collar as though the room had grown too warm. I faced the instigators directly, the ones who had mocked, excluded, dismissed. You built your confidence on arrogance, I said evenly, not integrity, and today that difference is visible to everyone. No vulgarity, no theatrics, just precision. Then I added the soft reminder, the legal leverage they had ignored. The documents you signed, the ceremonial rites you pretended didn't apply, I kept every copy. Their faces drained of color. A ripple ran through the guests. The truth was now public. And for the first time since the humiliation began, the crowd saw me, not as a burden or outsider, but as a woman standing in full dignity. Vindication washed over me like warm light. The bride whispered, "Thank you for still coming." The groom's voice cracked slightly as he added, "I'm sorry for what they did." Their gratitude landed like a quiet, emotional climax, unexpected, sincere, human. Beside me, the godfather gave a small nod. subtle, authoritative, final. The seal on the justice delivered tonight. Around us, a montage of reactions unfolded. Family members whispering frantically, some avoiding my eyes, some staring in stunned silence. My composure remained steady, a stark, cinematic contrast to their unraveling dignity. When I finally stepped away, it was with silent satisfaction. No dramatic exit, just calm footsteps and a final glance at the relatives who once treated me as insignificant. Their expressions were priceless, shock mixed with a dawning understanding of their own downfall. Inside me, a quiet voice settled everything. Every slight, every snub, every whispered mockery, balanced tonight. The satisfaction was deep but measured. Revenge, when done right, doesn't scorch, it illuminates. Elegance had been my weapon, and it had struck exactly where it needed to. Later that evening, I watched the footage on my phone, frame by frame. The stunned faces of the groom's family, the halted conversations, the flickers of panic, it all played back like a private movie of vindication. I couldn't help but let a small, satisfied smile slip. Every moment of planning, every ounce of patience had led to this. In a quiet corner, I sat with Aunty, her eyes twinkling with mischief and pride. We shared a soft laugh, the kind that only comes from triumph hard-earned. No words were needed to acknowledge the victory. It hung between us like an unspoken promise kept. The humiliation I had endured transformed into empowerment. Every whisper, every sneer, every act of exclusion now reinforced my authority. Public validation, finally, had been achieved. As I walked among the remaining guests, I noticed subtle shifts in the family's behavior. Head bows, careful nods, even tentative smiles. Respect that had once been withheld was quietly filtering back into their interactions. The ripple extended outward. Cousins and distant relatives began to acknowledge my influence, my contributions, and the patience that had made tonight possible. Pride swelled within me. Patience, meticulous planning, and strategic intelligence had been tested and proven victorious. But even in triumph, I reflected on the moral dimension. Revenge had been executed with dignity, not malice, leaving no lingering bitterness, only clarity. Some family members approached hesitantly, humbled, initiating genuine conversation. Their tone was softer, their words more thoughtful. I welcomed these minor reconciliations, not as submission, but as recognition of balance restored. I lingered in the empty wedding hall for a moment, sunlight filtering through the tall windows, casting long, golden shafts across the polished floor. The silence was cinematic, almost reverent, a visual testament to quiet victory. Later, I journaled, capturing the lessons learned, the strategies applied, and the personal growth that had carried me through this ordeal. Emotional catharsis blended with clarity, satisfaction mingled with closure, and a deep recognition of long-term resilience settled over me. Hints of future challenges flickered at the edges of my mind, but they no longer intimidated me. I knew my ability to navigate life with poise had strengthened. Relationships had been recalibrated. Power and respect were restored, not through force, but through careful, deliberate action. In quiet moments afterward, I savored the small victories, the regained dignity, the restored self-worth. Each triumph reinforced the truth I had long known. Patience and precision always trump impulsive reaction. Strategic timing, once overlooked, had made all the difference. Tonight, I had proven it. I faced the camera, the soft sunlight spilling across my study, warm and golden, casting long shadows that mirror the weight of the journey behind me. I breathed deeply, steadying myself as the story of humiliation and triumph flows from my lips. Tonight, I begin, voice calm but charged, is proof that patience, intelligence, and carefully chosen alliances can overcome even the sharpest public shaming. I pause, letting the words sink in, letting the memory of every sneer and every whispered slight flicker behind my eyes. Being underestimated is never weakness. It is a weapon if wielded with care and strategy. Cutaways flash across the screen. Stunned faces at the ceremony. Hands frozen mid-gesture, eyes wide with disbelief. The subtle nods of respect from those who had once dismissed me. Every frame a silent testament to vindication. Dignity, composure, and timing had created a narrative far more powerful than any confrontation could have alone. I recount in quiet intensity the invisible labor, the late-night planning, the careful observations that shaped every decisive move. Each small effort had built toward this ultimate acknowledgement. I highlight the alliances that made it possible, the Godfather who stood unwaveringly at my side, the mentors and quiet supporters who had watched, waited, and guided. These connections shifted the social dynamics that once seemed unbreakable. Looking directly into the lens, I speak to the audience, my tone firm and earnest. In life, patience, strategic thinking, and emotional intelligence are more powerful than brute force. Use them wisely. Every slight can be turned into leverage. Every underestimated moment can become an opportunity. The scene shifts, cinematic, the sunset over the wedding hall, golden light spilling across the empty marble floors, the lingering echoes of whispers and laughter, a visual symbol of closure and growth. I let my final thought hang in the air, soft but resolute. Every slight, every overlooked gesture, every whispered doubt transformed tonight into undeniable proof of my worth. The music swells, cinematic and poignant as the screen fades out, leaving a lingering sense of justice, empowerment, and the promise of stories yet to unfold.